Greetings, friend, entrepreneur, and fellow business builder. I'm Marketing Master Jim Ackerman, and this is a special edition of Good, Bad, and Ugly Ads. It's halftime at the Super Bowl, and we have been watching not only an incredible game, 28-0. Who would have thought that the Broncos would be behind to Seattle, 28-0 at the half? But what about the commercials? So we're going to go, we talked about a few of them that happened at the beginning. We're going to talk about a few more. The first one that I thought was noteworthy was the Cheerios Love ad, Dave. This one is an interesting one because there was some controversy involved
I think this ad wouldn't have made a splash if it hadn't have been for the controversy beforehand. Personally, I think the majority of America watching that ad, I think we see interracial couples enough that it would have happened, and I would have been focusing on the Cheerios, and I don't think it would have even registered. My wife's half Japanese, and you know, I think America's a melting pot, and we see that all the time. And so it's about time, and this is by no means the first interracial couple in a commercial. Right. But because there was this tweet about it by MSNBC, and then all this controversy, you know, Cheerios got talked about a lot, and very wisely, all these people retweeted to MSNBC, you know, their pictures of their interracial families, and Cheerios.
It's a good thing. It's worked out great for Cheerios on the PR side, whether it was a good commercial or not.
Right.
Okay.
A lot of people talking about Cheerios, so that's a lot of buzz, and that's going to be good for their brand. I think it's a cool thing that they are going in that, you know, we're going in that interracial direction. If they were planning it, it might have just been a producer or a director who casted the roles, and you know,
that's the way it went.
That's the way it went. Yeah. I'm not
sure. Well,
I
think it was on purpose because of the child and everything else, but that's not the point. The point is, I think for the vast number of Americans out there, didn't give it a second thought until MSNBC brought it up. Yep. I think it's interesting that way. Right now, I'd like to turn to the phones, and my other son, Joel Ackerman, on the other end of the line. Joel and my son, Dave, here. Both internet marketing gurus, have generated between them tens of millions of views on YouTube, and have helped, most importantly, help brands grow and grow dramatically as a result of their efforts. Joel, you're on the other line. The first ad I want to talk to you about was the Hyundai ad that focused on the automatic braking system.
Yeah, first of all, it was very funny. You know, it's just funny to see the dad constantly saving the kid miraculously, impossibly good reflexes. And so it was funny, but then you see this very interesting and compelling feature, auto emergency brakes, demonstrated very clearly, and it was just a short and sweet kind of ad, very simple, but I thought it had good entertainment value, and at the same time demonstrated a benefit of the Hyundai, and I just think it's a nice, short, sweet, effective ad.
Yeah, it would be nice with a call to action, but you normally don't get those with these commercials anyway. There are a couple of exceptions we'll get to. But then there's another one that you particularly liked, was the Radio Shack 80s ad. Tell us what you were thinking on that one. We will go with, by the way, on the Hyundai one, the marketing master will call that one good. But tell us about the Radio Shack ad and why you like that one.
Well, basically, I felt like for the majority of these Super Bowl ads, many of them reeked of trying too hard, want to be viral, relying much too heavily on celebrity and randomness, making them all smell like ads trying too hard and not being sincere about, hey, we're a brand that's trying to sell you something. And I felt like this Radio Shack ad, while it was certainly bizarre and had allusions to celebrity, this was the 80s called, and we saw Jim Nist and Cliff Clavin from Cheers and all kinds of 80s outs from the sitcom and all those kind of things. It was very genuine and bold in Radio Shack saying, hey, we haven't been relevant for a couple decades, but we're changing things up and totally overhauling our brand. And I think that it did a good job of kind of making America pay attention.
Interesting. What's your take on it, Dave?
You know, Joel made me think about that, but as I was watching the ad, I was interested in it. I'm a child of the 80s, so I'm paying attention. I'm going, there's Mary Lou Retton, there's Hulk Hogan, there's Alf, there's, you know, all these things from the 80s that I like to see. Oh, the California Raisins were cool. And so I liked seeing that. Maybe that was a play to my generation, but maybe ours is the generation, the exact demographic that's now tech savvy and loves our gadgets. And Radio Shack saying, hey, sorry, we goofed and didn't pay attention to what you have been paying attention to for a couple of decades, but we're on the ball now, come back in. And, you know, after Joel kind of made me see things that way, I agree. You know, I feel like it was a nice effort and a kind of they were poking fun at themselves, and that's exactly what Radio Shack has to do if they're going to stick around and say, yeah, we've been out of it, but we're back in.
Problem I had with it was, at the end of the day, what's the promise, and what can I do about it today? You know, it reminds me of Domino's Pizza a couple of years ago when they admitted, yeah, well, our pizza hasn't tasted very good, and now that we can't, you know, we've run over enough people on the way to trying to get it to you hot and ready in 30 minutes or less, we can't be doing that anymore. Now we're going to have to sacrifice and go back and try to make a better pizza. Well, it may be too little too late. I don't know if, you know, Domino's, I understand, is making something of a comeback, but they're never going to dominate like they once did. And Radio Shack never did quite dominate in such the same way. So I'm left with the feeling of wait and see. I think there's merit to what they're trying to do. I don't know if it got there. The marketing master says bad.
You know, that's one that, you know, I'm easily swayed, I guess, because that's one where they really could have thrown on, you know, some kind of call to action, come in and see the new Radio Shack, or something where, you know, people could have gone and taken it to the next level. They really need to become that cool, engaging brand like Doritos. And that's, I think, where they're going, and they needed to use this opportunity to create some buzz. I agree. I don't think it'll be that talked about. And so, you know, I thought it's aesthetically very fun to see all that 80s stuff. But, you know, you're right. It probably won't create the kind of buzz or reaction that they were looking for.
All right. One thing I want to talk to both you guys about is the Tim Tebow, the T-Mobile ads that kind of poke fun at Tim Tebow, having gone through the season. A highly touted quarterback at one point in time, actually played very well for Denver, but this year without a contract. And there's a series of 2 ads that T-Mobile did playing on the idea of the no contract. What do you think of that one real quick, Dave?
Well, I thought those were actually great ads. I thought they were a lot of fun to watch. It's a great answer to the question, what is Tim Tebow doing right now? And Tim Tebow, though he has become kind of this figure that's made fun of easily, he's also insanely popular. A lot of people like him, and love him or hate him, people pay attention to what he's doing and saying. So I thought it was a win. And, you know, I think, you know, then that offer that you can get out of your contract, I absolutely can't stand dealing with cell phone companies, and that offer is very compelling.
Yeah, I thought the thing people hate most about cell phones is the contracts. And I think this did a good job of saying, hey, you don't have to have one. Contrast that, Joel, if you will, with the Sprint ad where they talk about the 10 friends idea, and you can have 10 friends in on a Sprint deal and everybody gets unlimited data all for one low price. What did you think of that one?
I thought it was good. I thought that T-Mobile won tonight in just combining the creativity with driving home, selling the benefit of no contract, and they did that in 3 really great spots. I felt like, even the one that was strictly text, but the Sprint ad did a good job of selling the benefit of, hey, now it doesn't just have to be your family, it can be your friends, and the more friends you add, the more you save. So very clearly communicated a benefit that a lot of people are going to be interested in, especially a lot of football game type watchers. But it just wasn't as creative. So it was a good ad, absolutely. It wasn't one that I thought was particularly funny or compelling in some other way, other than it's a great example that the primary purpose of an ad is to communicate the benefits of your product or service.
Right.
It doesn't have to be terribly funny or whatever else.
I think if this were American Idol, we'd all be in agreement that T-Mobile wins and is going on to the next round. The question is Sprint juxtaposed to that no contract deal, talking about the 10 friends thing? That's a throwback to an earlier age of cell phones where they had the MCI friends and family deal and that kind of stuff. I don't think people care about that as much anymore as they once did. I think they're much more concerned about the contracts. When you look at the ads separately, which of course we did in the Super Bowl, I think the Sprint ad holds up pretty well. In comparison, though, to the T-Mobile ad, I think it pales. So the master is going to say that the T-Mobile ads are good, and I won't go all the way to bad for the Sprint ad, but it was not as good. And with that, we'll throw you back to the second half, and we'll be back post-game to talk about the rest of the ads in the Super Bowl. Are they good, bad, or ugly?